May they be able to translate into their own spiritual language the reassuring words of the Apostle Paul. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or sword? As it is written, for your sake we are killed all day long. We are counted as sheep for the slaughter. Yet in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. God's love will yet have the last word. God has not forsaken Boston. God has not forsaken our nation. He merely weaves a beautiful, bright tapestry of goodness that includes a few dark strands. By faith, we will leave this sacred space today to continue that noble narrative of patriotism, self-sacrifice, and simple striving that was only briefly interrupted by impotent evil, but that now continues, richer, denser, and more poignant than ever. May our faith be strengthened, that we might leave from here with this conviction. God bless us all. Amen.
courageous president, to our compassionate governor, to our mighty mayor, to all of you. Matthew chapter 5. Now, when he saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. They will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets before you. Beloved, I believe Jesus taught that to perceive the kingdom of heaven, you must see the opposite. When you see loss, see reward. When you hear a cry of pain, hear a prayer. When you see sacrifice, see a sacred offering. And to those of you who have suffered, in any type of suffering, wherever you might be, the Lord is saying to you, never lose sight of your future. You who mourn, you will be comforted. You who are broken, you will be healed. You who have suffered loss, you will be rewarded. The Massachusetts license plate says the Spirit of America. And I pray the world right now, today, at this moment, will look at us and see the true spirit of America.
My dear brothers and sisters, dear friends, on behalf of our Catholic community, I wish to welcome all of you here to the Cathedral of the Holy Cross. It's an honor to have our president, our governor, and our mayor here with us this morning. We're so grateful to Governor Patrick for initiating this ecumenical prayer service. We're delighted that Metropolitan Methodius and Reverend Liz Walker and all of the many leaders from the various churches and faith communities could join us here today. Our Holy Father, Pope Francis, asked me to communicate to you his sentiments of love and support. The Holy Father invokes God's peace upon our dead, consolation upon the suffering, and God's strength upon all those engaged in the continuing work of relief and response. The Holy Father prays that we will be united in the resolve not to be overcome by evil, but to combat evil with good, working together to build an ever more just, free, and secure society for generations to come. This year's Patriots' Day celebrations were marred by an act of senseless violence that's caused all of us great shock and pain. It has made us relive the horror of September the 11th and is a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the human heart and produce such evil. And yet the same tragedy has brought us together as a community like nothing else ever could. The generous and courageous response of so many assures us that there resides in people's hearts a goodness that is incredibly selfless. We saw that when summoned by great events, we can be remarkably committed to the well-being of others, even total strangers. We become a stronger people, a more courageous people, a more noble people. The police, emergency workers, and even bystanders and passerbys did not hesitate to put themselves in harm's way to help the injured and the frightened. Our presence here today is an act of solidarity, first of all with those who lost their lives, and we are so happy that Crystal Campbell's family is here in the cathedral with us. We are also in solidarity with those injured in the explosion and wish to express our desire to support them and their families and loved ones. This Patriots' Day shakes us out of our complacency and indifference and calls us to focus on the task of building a civilization that is based on love and justice. We do not want to risk losing the legacy of those first patriots who were willing to lay down their lives for the common good. We must overcome the culture of death by promoting a culture of life, a profound respect for each and every human being made in the image and likeness of God. And we must cultivate a desire to give our lives in the service of others. Last week I was in Galilee on the Mount of the Beatitudes with 30 priests from Boston on retreat. There we prayed and listened to the very gospel that was read for us here this morning. The Sermon on the Mount is a description of the life of the people gathered by and around the Lord. Often in the Gospels we can see the contrast between the crowd and the community. The crowd is made up of self-absorbed individuals, each one focused on his or her own interest in competition with the conflicting projects of others. A community is where people come to value each other, to find their own identity in being part of something bigger than themselves, working together for the common good. The Sermon on the Mount in many ways is the constitution of the people called to live a new life. Jesus gives us a new way to deal with offenses by reconciliation. Jesus gives us a new way to deal with violence by nonviolence. He gives us a new way to deal with money by sharing and providing for those in need. Jesus gives us a new way of dealing with leadership by drawing upon the gifts of every person, each one a child of God. In the face of the present tragedy, we must ask ourselves, what kind of a community do we want to be? What are the ideals that we want to pass on to the next generation? It cannot be violence, hatred, and fear. The Jewish people speak of tikkun olam, repairing the world. God has entrusted